Yeah. Be sure to like our episode, leave a review. We do appreciate that. And email us your questions, comments, concerns, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Or, of course, leave a review, concern, or question in the comments section. Softball Strength Academy are watching the show, of course, on YouTube. We do appreciate that. Episode 2, cross functionality. We're talking today about Cassie and her journey to signing with the University of Alabama, the Crimson Tide. And we will, of course, get to coaching points as we move the show along here in the coming weeks. We're just trying to get to know Cassie and get to know her journey a little bit better, to her coaching career, a very successful one at that. So let me ask you this: with everything going on today, here's our main event question. Everything going on with all the social media out there now, TikTok and Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch, and I mean, there's so many I can't even. We're doing I just found this new stream that we're streaming on yesterday. So I'm learning something new every day. With all these new websites, recruiting for you back then wasn't as hard because there was a lot of attention, but now everything's magnified. What kind of advice would you give for recruits, both high major D1, mid-level D1, or even D1, D2, D3, and try and just block out that noise of everything as it comes to recruiting and as it pertains to all the social media?
Yeah, it's I do not envy athletes trying to get recruited right now. I really, really don't. They come in and if the athlete doesn't feel the stress, you look at the parent and they're like, what camp do I do? What team do I put this girl on? What about NIL? And they're trying to, we can't take tactics for recruiting that worked 5 years ago and apply them to today. It's NIL and the transfer portal have completely changed our sport. The other thing is the sport has gotten big. There's big money contracts for these coaches. So similar to basketball, where you see coaches getting moved around every other season, softball's starting to experience that. So if I could advise an athlete, it would be to find a school that you fall in love with. Find something, don't just go after the coach. Don't just go after the clout of the team, because that changes year to year sometimes too. You have one team that makes it to the World Series. The next year they don't make playoffs. And so find a school that you're comfortable with, and comfort not being that you're not going to grow, but something that you're like, okay, I can be at that university or college, and I can see myself progressing my career. I can see myself getting better. And then, trust yourself in knowing that you're never going to say yes to a school that you're not comfortable with, but you're also not going to say no to a school that you have that good feeling about. And I think back in time now, if let's say my sophomore year, my coaches at Alabama left, I would 100% consider the transfer portal, because who your coach is very important. And I would at least consider it. So I think with that transfer portal, I don't like the idea of like, well, I don't like something, I'm just going to throw it in the bag and then go. But if a situation drastically changes for you, why do you have to endure a situation that's not good for you anymore? Why not drastically be able to change your situation too? So I do think the advice needs to shift a little bit, where we don't need to shame athletes for transferring, that they're not loyal. And that's not the case at all. There needs to be a mix of, okay, what's best for this athlete? How can I impact this team for the better? And you go from there.
You mentioned the transfer portal in there. I do wonder if now players are very, they recruit with the idea, or they get recruited and signed with the idea that, hey, you know what, if this doesn't work out after a year, I'm going right into the transfer portal. And I think that's, to me, is becoming, and I've talked about this on my other podcast with Jake Epstein about colleges and the transfer portal, and how that's really affecting not only people who have been recruited and are going into college, but now, of course, the teams themselves.
Yeah, and I think, the transfer portal, it's hard to mention the transfer portal without NIL, because there's so many athletes now. I'm talking to college coaches in baseball too, and I'm that have had 3-4 different athletes leave, and he's like, yeah, they got offered big NIL deals at another college, and that's why the transfer happened. So there's this, it's not just, hey, this is how much scholarship you're going to get. This is like, hey, your school's going to get paid for, and in addition, here's a $20,000 contract for X, Y, and Z. And That is interesting.
That's a game changer.
Yeah, this is gonna like, and it's not just gonna change slowly. It's gonna change so fast. And so when I do have athletes that are asking me about this, I don't know enough to predict the immediate future right now. I don't know if anyone truly does, but I just think, you know, again, finding good people to have in your life to help guide you, and then knowing that there's probably going to be a lot that changes in the next 4 years, and just to continue to be adaptable and roll with any punch. And it's probably going to be more and more uncommon to see a coach stay at a university for all 4 years, or athletes stay at a university for all 4 years. So starting to turn into a little bit more of like a professional sport
and
college.
I think we have to keep in mind too that's with softball, things are rapidly changing. The big money contracts, the TV ratings are going up. A lot of money has been infused into these programs, and a lot more eyes, I think, are on the product. It's a good thing. I think it's the same thing with college baseball. And so athletes are going to start. I think it might be a little bit slow with baseball and softball, but start getting those NIL deals and start getting some of those endorsements. That's what I see, because like you mentioned before, there's a lot more eyes on the product.
Yep. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. Like, I looked at NIL and I was like, this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to females, because you go to, I mean, there's no true professional sport that you're able to make money. But if you played UNC soccer, I bet you could have made money in Chapel Hill. And if you played on Duke basketball or Alabama softball or Florida softball, you know, whatever it is, like, there are these hotbeds where communities really, really support their college athletes. And then there's no professional outlet. Oklahoma, gosh, Jocelyn Alo, if she started 4 years ago, she probably, you know, would be in a completely different position at the end of her career. So this is going to be good for female athletes. I just think everybody's going to have to learn how this works best for everyone involved. I think that's,
and I think with male athletes, it's actually going to be something a little bit worse, because you're going to be looking at the next guy over there saying, hey, he got a NIL deal. He's getting money infused to his bank account. I'm not. And I think that female athletes, kind of, as you mentioned, they look at it a little bit differently. Before we wrap up, do you have anything that I missed on my end that you want to tell people about your recruiting process? Again, episode 2, your journey to the University of Alabama.
No, just everyone's process, everyone's journey is going to be so different. And when you start trying to compare journeys or follow it exactly in someone's footsteps, that's when you kind of will end up off the path. And just continue trusting you are exactly where your feet are. If one door closes, it's because that wasn't the best fit for you. Even if you thought it was going to be, there's going to be another fit that works best for you in your future that you just can't see yet.
All right, so be sure again to follow us on social media at Jim Tara and at _coach, at Cassie _ it's right in front of me too, at coach_Cassie RB, and emails your question, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Next week, we're discussing year 1 as, what do they call it? What's the singular version of Crimson Tide?
Just year 1 of, year 1 of a member of Crimson Tide, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's not like UCLA where you're a Bruin. It's kind of like Notre Dame, where it's just a plural name throughout.
Yeah.
You're not a Fighting Irish. You're Fighting Irish man or woman.
Of the Crimson Tide. Yeah.
Okay. So year 1 on campus, episode 3, next week. That'll be a lot of fun. What kind of what will we hear? Any good stories next week?
I have a couple planned. First day of conditioning and 101 heat, all that good stuff.
All right. Well, we appreciate you all listening, watching. Be sure to watch on the YouTube side, Softball Strength Academy, and of course, like and subscribe, leave a review, Apple, Google, Spotify, and we will talk to you next week.